All right, we are back finally with the second podcast. Sorry it took so long. We've had babies and moving and scheduling issues, real life stuff. So we have a full packed, hopefully, conversation going on. We're a couple members down this evening, but we do have one new one that's joining us for his first podcast, Cambio. If you want to say
Yo,
anything to
yo,
anybody.
I'm Cambio. Looks like it's tradition to kind of speak on what my, I guess, strengths or my expertise, quote unquote. I'm a gamer, uh, mostly fighting games. I like some anime. I'm a little picky about it. Definitely not a weeb, but I do like anime. I'm also into martial arts and weapons. You know, comic books, definitely comic book movies. So yeah, pretty well rounded, I'd say.
Cool. And we got returning Robbie, and of course, I'm Mike. Ugh. So, a little bit of news. The first podcast was pretty well received. Anybody that listened to it, uh, but I think we're hovering right around 100 views. Uh, Want to encourage y'all, if you do listen to them, uh, give us a little bit of feedback. I mean, we want to be as interactive as possible with the group, and uh, talk about the stuff that y'all want to talk about. So just kind of drop us a line, even if it's just a message on the channel or even in the group. Just let us know what you think, ideas, thoughts, whatever you got. Just let us know. We're still running the art contest for logos or whatever you want to do. Um, and I think it's safe to finally announce that we have two members actively working on a theme song for the podcast and probably for anything else that we end up doing. I've heard the MIDI file version of it, and I'm pretty impressed. If this was more of a gaming, aspect type thing, that would work perfectly. Uh, Brad's the only one that's heard it other than me, and he really liked it. So hopefully that'll get done soon, and
It
y'all will
should
be able to hear
definitely
it.
be a it should definitely be a mix between Mario and Power Rangers.
Well, I gave the people involved because they asked like what kind of stuff we were looking for, and I'm like, well, I mean, you've seen the group. I don't want anything like really extravagant. I mean, I know your previous work, and we kind of think the same. So give me some old style video game theme with maybe Halo and Avengers theme. And he goes, I got you. And
Dope.
it seems like they pulled it out. I'm really interested in hearing what it sounds like with the actual full instruments. And hopefully, when we actually get it, we'll be able to get those two guys in here for one of the podcasts. And I think that covers the announcements. So, y'all have any preference of where you want to start on this huge list that we got?
Um,
Endgame
Spider
Far From
Man.
Home?
Yeah, and
Take it
yeah, it would probably be smart to do Endgame first since it technically came out first. Yeah,
take it
let's do
like a
that.
man from the tip to the base.
As most of you know, Endgame finally is out, at least on digital. So anybody that has been avoiding the spoilers, uh, if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to cut it off for a little bit or fast forward. But it's really all on you at this point. It's out on digital. The stuff, articles are everywhere. We're going to talk about it.
If you've been
Uh,
able to dodge spoilers for this long, wow, I gotta say that's pretty impressive.
my brother has, and he made me promise not to give him any spoilers, and we have actually had spoiler-free discussions for about 5 minutes before I go, I can't talk anymore. I can't do it. And he finally saw
That's
it.
pretty awesome.
I was
That's
impressed that he
awesome.
lasted this long.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Uh, Shit. Well, Endgame was literally, I think, in my opinion, the epitome of a finale and fan service that
No, it was
you could
great.
ever
Yeah,
get. I mean,
yeah.
you had. Go ahead.
It was amazing. No, I was just gonna say like, yeah, it's amazing. Like, can't give it enough compliments.
It's the best movie ever made, and screw you if you don't agree with me.
I don't know about that, but it's up there. It's in my top 5, maybe top 10, top 5 easily. Yeah, it's amazing. I can't say it's the best movie ever, but no, it's amazing.
Well, I can honestly say, and I don't think anybody will disagree. And if you do, we need to have a
You're the
beer
lead.
and seriously have a discussion about your taste. But it definitely deserved its rightful place above Space Pocahontas.
Oh, definitely, yeah, yeah. I mean, but highest grossing movie doesn't necessarily mean it's the greatest movie of all time. I will say, as far as culture goes, like as far as nerd culture, it's the epitome of solidifying our place, and
Well, I thought
making
that was
nerd
kind of
culture like uh, above above the mainstream. How do I even know how to word it? Like
spit
it
it out,
put us at
Richard.
the forefront. Yeah, it's put us at the forefront, man. Like, you can't say that geek culture is lame. Like, we have the highest grossing movie of all time is a freaking comic book movie. Like, nerds everywhere, are finally like justified. It was already done with Iron Man, of course. Like, that really put us on the map. But I mean, now that we have the highest grossing movie of all time, it's like, you can't make fun of the nerdy little comic book kid anymore. Like, comic
Right.
books are cool now.
And I
Nerds
mean,
rejoice.
go ahead, Robbie.
I said nerds rejoice.
Right.
Yeah, literally. I mean, society's been changing, especially ever since Iron Man. Yeah, it's become cool to be a nerd. Yeah, 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 yeah. But uh, for, up until um, what was it? Was it Panther and Panther and Into the Spider-Verse were the first ones to actually earn awards?
Um, that sounds right. Like, the certain awards in a certain category or something. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Hollywood was just mouthing off very randomly about these superhero movies, don't pay no attention, and anybody that just didn't know about it and just saw the movie would be like, oh man, this is a good story, this is great, and the nerds are like, we told you, and nobody else wanted to listen, and then you had Panther and Into the Spider Verse finally break the tape and win awards. I mean,
Right.
and that was right after Infinity War. And I mean, the nerds were like, Infinity War was beautiful.
Right.
I mean, if you didn't tear up at least watching that movie at any point, then you just didn't care.
Of course.
And then Endgame comes along and blows their minds again.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
3 hours. I mean, easy. I mean, people complained about the time, but I mean, they
It
easily
didn't
could have
bother
done.
me.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't bother me, but I mean, easily they could have done the story itself in about 2. The rest of it was an hour's worth of fan service. Of, we know the fans want to see these types of things, and we can squeeze it in and it flow. So we're gonna do it. I mean, Cap picking up the hammer, Cap in the elevator going "Hail Hydra." I never once in my life thought I would see Captain America saying "Hail Hydra" on screen. I mean, it was just inconceivable. It would never have
Yeah.
happened. And
Right.
all the little nuances, and I mean, the cold open. I mean, you had fans of Hawkeye that were like, "Oh, Hawkeye's always, in the background. He's always blah blah blah." I'm like, no, that they're gonna do something with him. They're gonna do something with him. And then that whole opening sequence, and you know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen. and it still hits you in the gut.
I love how they trolled the entire fan base, though.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's
Ev-
just good marketing.
Everything in the entire trailer was the first 5 minutes of the movie.
I know, right? And
Hmm.
then, I mean, it was meant to be the end of a saga, you know. So, and now that Far From Home is out, Far From Home is the cap. Okay, Endgame was the end of the story. Far From Home was a good Spider-Man story, but it was also it filled in the gaps and some of the questions that you had left over from Endgame. And
Yeah, that's true.
they pulled in little nuances, you know, nothing that you wouldn't miss, but they brought some stuff out to kind of lay the groundwork of where they're going. And now that, you know, Phase 4 is in production, the Infinity Saga is over. Marvel's got the
Right.
Fox IPs now. They've got all these things going on. Nobody has any idea of where they're going to go from here. There's so many different directions, and nobody has any clue. It's like
Right.
watching Iron Man for the first time. The mind just stalls when you try to go. Okay, well they're gonna no. I don't know. I'm just gonna sit here and watch the movie.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's pretty much all you can really do, and uh, I'm really excited for that they brought in the multiverse. You know, they confirmed it with Far From Home, and then they double confirmed it with uh, Doctor Strange 2.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That seems to be uh, the biggest thing going right now. That's what everybody's talking about is what are they going to bring out in the multiverse for that movie?
Yeah, yeah, no idea. I mean, obviously Dormammu's not dead, so like there's always a chance that I mean that's like a universal level threat. Like that was the only negative thing I'd have to say about Doctor Strange because the movie's amazing, but they downplay Dormammu just a little bit because in the comics, man, Dormammu is fucking like insanely powerful and like is a constant, like I said, universal level threat. But I mean, yeah, I mean with everything that happened at the end of Infinity War and Far From Home, like there's so many directions they could go, and like you said, now that X-Men could pop up, you know, there could be mutant wars, there could be, I mean, they're talking about crossing over with Venom. Like I don't know if you guys heard about that, but
Yeah.
they're seriously trying to, you know, they're in talks with Sony, and Sony's like, oh, we might try to ride on that Spider-Man train that seems to be doing really well, you know, and if they do that right, it could be, you know, awesome.
Well, Sony, the whole deal with Sony, they weren't as stubborn, and I say that in a as nice a way as possible as Fox. Fox knew
Yeah,
what they had; they just didn't want to let it go, and they wanted to get their bang for their buck. I get that. You failed.
hmm.
You know, let it be. But Sony was more okay. Well, let's see how we can make this work for everyone. Sony's got Venom 2.
Understatement of the year on Fox. Just going to say that.
Oh, yeah. They've got Venom 2. They've got Morbius. And I think they're talking about Craven.
Yeah, yeah, Craven. Yep.
Yeah. Uh, but they're also about to go back to the table with Disney because, unfortunately, Tom Holland's contract is going to be coming into question soon. He had 3 solo movies and 3 appearances in the Marvel Universe with Disney, and they got to go back to the table and figure out what they're going to do. I think if they go back to the table as friends, just discussing everything, I think it'll work out for everybody. I mean, they even played Venom off as, we can do this, but we can also leave little gaps that won't affect the story so much. So when we can pull in Spider-Man himself,
Yeah.
and it would work. And I think it would
Yeah.
fit, and I would love to see him do it. And I mean, everybody so far in the past couple of months, when it's been brought up, anybody involved has been like, "Yeah, we want to do this. Let's do this." And Disney isn't arguing or fighting about it. Sony's already said, "Hey, we do want to do this." So hopefully they're at the table or they're planning on it, and we're all going to play together in one big sandbox.
Right. I mean, it makes more sense, economically too, and I think that's important, obviously, because fan service only goes with so far. So obviously they have to be looking at this like, all right, Spider-Man's been killing it in the box office and with the fans, it would be kind of stupid not to hop on and like, get shit connected and everything. It would be silly not to. So I'm fairly
Oh,
confident they're going to
agreed.
do something,
I've got high hopes, especially for the way that they quickly came to the original agreement to get him in for Civil War. I mean,
Right.
obviously the people behind the scenes knew that talks were going on, and they had stuff ready to go at a moment's notice, and they were able to pull it off. So I have no doubt, unless for whatever reason, Sony, the movie side, goes complete retard and wants to fight something, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work out in the best interest for everybody. The only
Yeah.
other one left is actually Universal, and we were talking about this yesterday. Uh, right now, Universal only has an agreement for the Hulk. In the agreement, Disney Marvel can't make a solo film, but they can use them as much as they want, which is why you got them in a bunch of different films. There is solid leads saying that Hulu is going to get a Hulk TV show, and it's going to central around She-Hulk, but it's going to heavily feature Banner, and they're going to keep the same act. They're going to keep Ruffalo. So
That's
that'll be
great.
interesting as well. And if all that ties in, that's the thing that scares me about Phase 4 is you've got all these shows plus these movies for Phase 4, and Phase 4 is going to happen in the space of 2 years, and it's all going to interconnect.
That's a lot. It's going to be a lot to process.
It's definitely going to be a lot to process.
It's going to
Yeah.
be a lot for my wallet to process, too.
Well, I already have Hulu, so good on that. But
If they go with the Hulu, yeah, I've already got Hulu. I'm waiting on more definitive stuff from Disney Plus, but so far what they've already announced that they're going to do, besides the Marvel stuff, for $10 to $12 a month, I'll pay for that. I mean, even if they just throw the
I mean,
90s shows and the animated movies on there, I'd pay for that.
yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's just so many streaming services to keep up with, man.
It
Got
is
Hulu
getting
and
nuts.
Netflix and yeah, so many, yeah. Might as well
It
just
Oh,
go back to cable.
no.
It's
I'm
like
done with cable.
it's yeah, no, I am too, but I'm saying like I'm talking about all
Yeah,
these companies
money
who just
wise.
yeah, all
oh,
these
you,
companies who just get together and be like, hey, let's go back to the way things were. We're messing things up because it's going to get more expensive by the time. And think about it: if they're $10 to $12 a pop, by the time you have 5 or 6 streaming services, you're paying $60, $70 a month for entertainment. And that's
Right,
not including movie tickets and fucking popcorn.
right. And I mean that's why I've been kind of holding
or the
off on
lube.
the DC one, because
Well,
there's
if you get
stuff
extra buttered popcorn, it's already lubed. Duh.
exactly. lube everywhere. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Plus a
It's
light
like
snack.
natural lube. Yeah, exactly. It's edible lube. That's a thing.
Edible lube, and we've broken the barrier.
I'm
Remember,
just,
We
well,
break
I
the
mean, if you
barrier
have
all
edible
the
lube, of
time.
course you're breaking barriers, man. You're breaking all kinds of things. But
um,
seriously, that's a lot of money
yeah,
to be
it
forking out
is.
for entertainment. And then I still got to buy comic books and buy video games, man. Like, give me some room to breathe, will you? God.
Yeah, it's getting expensive. I mean, I'm having to pick and choose my video games, like
Yeah, definitely.
even closer than I was, just because it's 60 to $80 a pop. I mean, and this is coming in the list here too. You
Mm-hmm.
got Borderlands 3 coming out. I got the definitive edition, and that's $100 right there.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Fallen Order, which looks fantastic.
Yeah, that does look dope. I'm gonna pre-order Final Fantasy VII. That's the one that I'm going with, and it's really sad because again, coming back to the money thing, like I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan, and I want that new Mortal Kombat game, but I'm not about to pay $150 for a game to get all the characters because by the time you buy your DLC and all that, you're upwards in the $150
Oh,
sometimes.
easily.
If they put out 2 or 3 different packs, and they're charging $20 a pop on those. So yeah, you're spending upwards of $150 for a game. When I know if I just wait a few months, they're gonna come out with the complete edition for
Yeah,
$60 all over again. Like, so just wait.
yeah. Well, what I've been doing too, and I mean, your PlayStation, I'm Xbox.
I have an Xbox too, though. I have
Okay,
3 Xbox. I have all the Xboxes. I have the
okay.
original, the 360, and the one. I
There you
collect
go.
all video games. I collect all video games, man. But I like to give Xbox, lovers a hard time. But I love Gears of War, so I can't not have an Xbox, man.
Right. I mean, it's Halo for me. I mean,
Yeah,
I've read the books, I've read the comics, I've played all the games, I own all the games. I mean, for some reason, Halo is just one of those things that sucked me in and will not let me go. I love it, and
I
that's
feel
one
you,
of the
man.
deciding factors. I want to play the new Halo game whenever it comes out, if they're going to put one out. So I'm going to stay with Xbox. I'll go buy a PlayStation, which I'm probably going to do. I'm probably going to
I
get both this
still
next round.
I still own everything but the original Halo.
I've got mine. It's all tore up, but I've got it.
I think I have a copy of the original Halo somewhere.
Um, and then that was. Oh
Oh,
yeah, what I was going to was the thing that they're doing. The Game Pass. When it first came out, it really wasn't worth it. But
Yeah,
in the past year, well, pretty much since last E3, when they said that they were going to focus on that a little bit more, uh, some of the more bigger titles have been coming to it, and it's $10 a month. That's a little bit much, but I've got Gears 4, and I'm
yeah.
literally only paying $10 for it. I've played it like 3 times with a couple of buddies, and I have it. I have it available, but I didn't have to go out and spend $60 on a download or a
True.
hard copy that's just going to sit there.
yeah, but
Very
if you
true.
play it for 6 months, then you're already paying that $60.
Yeah, but they're focusing more on some of the newer titles uh, that are coming out. Was State of Decay, when it was released, I think it was a week later, it hit Game Pass, so I was able to grab that, play a little bit of it, find out it wasn't for me, and then toss to the side. I didn't have to shell out the $60. I can actually play
Yeah,
more games, even though I'm paying 120 total a year. I can actually play more games than if I went out and bought each one at 60 a pop.
you're right. You have a good
True.
point, but and while that's definitely way more economic, I'm also a collector too. So if I'm
Right,
really into a series, I want that physical copy.
right, Right, which I feel the exact same way. Like some of my Xbox friends have started doing the whole digital thing.
Yeah,
I have no problem with digital. I have nothing against it, but I like the experience of going to the store, pre-ordering it, having a physical copy, and then if they do a midnight release, going to the midnight release. And it's kind of died down with the whole digital thing, but it makes me feel more like I'm tied to the game,
definitely. Yeah.
which I like. I mean, if it's a game I know I'm gonna get a hard copy of it.
Yeah, and not that I like to socially interact that much because social anxiety and I'm an asshole. But it's also nice to meet other people face to face that play the same game as you, and
Oh yeah,
there's a multitude of ways that can go. You can be like, oh man, add me. Like you seem really cool. You can add me. Or then you see people there that are like 30 times dorkier than you. So you're like, wow, I'm glad I'm not that level of dorky. Like I still maintain a little bit of coolness. Looking at this guy here. So I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why I love going to releases like that. It's a great experience, and yeah,
I
you
say that
definitely
every
can't get
time I
that on
see
digital,
Cambio.
man. I'm
yeah.
just saying you can't get that on digital. You can't get that.
I say
Right?
that every time I see you, Cambio.
What? You think that? Oh, well, you're welcome.
At least I'm not as nerdy as this guy.
You know what? Fair. That's fair. I'm like mid tier, and I am okay with that. I definitely look like a geek, but I'll still, you know,
Uh, we
and
can all agree Brad is top tier.
oh yeah,
yeah. Oh
oh
God,
yeah.
yes.
No
Yeah.
argument there. Well, I
I
mean,
know he got shoved in a locker. He definitely knows what a swirly feels like.
damn, man can't even defend himself.
Look, I will
No, you'll say
text
it to
him
his face.
now. I'll text. I'm gonna tell him now. Matter of fact, don't worry.
Oh,
I might
social
even
interaction during the podcast. Here we go.
yeah, I might even let you guys know what he says if it's funny.
Well,
I'll give him
and it's
shit
not
about
just
Smithern.
it's not even just about video games though. It's movies too, or books. It's
Oh yeah,
like my whole thing with for me it started with the prequels for Star Wars. Uh, right before they came out, when they did the whole uh, re-release of the original three, my dad took me to opening night for those, for each one. And then when the first
yeah.
one came out, when the first prequel came out, he took me opening day. And we went to opening day for all the prequels. And we've kept that kind of bond for a lot of things. And when my son was old enough to go and actually sit and pay attention and enjoy the movie, which I think was what was it? It was Guardians of the Galaxy. we
Okay.
went we went opening night, and I was able to share what I had with my dad with my son, and any big movie, Star Wars, any of the Marvel stuff, we go opening night. I sit there and I will sit on just enough cash to make sure that I can pay for both of our tickets and a bag of popcorn just to do it.
Damn right.
And
That's what it's all about, man.
yeah, and that's one thing that I will never regret or never forget. It's just one of those things that you want the interaction, and you get the same thing when you go to a con or a signing or something, or a physical comic shop. If you find a good comic shop, if the people are decent there, you get that little interaction, and it makes the whole fandom of whatever you have better. And
You're right. Hmm.
just to finish off talking about the whole video game thing, uh, you know, the end of E3, we covered some of it in the first podcast. Basically, Microsoft kind of flopped. They didn't do a showing that everybody thought they would.
Right.
But I think there's reasons behind it. I'm not losing faith because not long after is when they announced or not long before, is when they announced their partnership with Sony itself.
Right.
It also got dropped that the manufacturer for a lot of the parts is doing both the new Scarlet and the PS5. So literally, in my opinion, I mean, other than giving your friends crap, the console wars are over.
You
And
know what?
I thought this
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it this past gen too, because they were so close in I mean, just the way that the systems themselves ran, they were just so close that it really didn't make a difference. You were basically choosing your system based on experience, based on what games were exclusives, and your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what it comes down to. I mean, I've known people that have never had a problem with Sony, and I know people that have hated their experience with Sony, and vice versa with Microsoft.
I
I've
hated
had,
my experience with PS3. I've not owned a PS4, but I will
yeah,
be owning one because I'm not giving up Final Fantasy VII.
right,
Can't give that game up.
which brings into another point that I wanted to bring up. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you both saw it. Uh, Sony dropped last week or the week before that Final Fantasy is, as of right now, a complete PlayStation exclusive.
Really?
Yes. Even
Mm.
though the same devs have been working with Microsoft for what was it? Kingdom Hearts 3. You've had 3 or 4 Final Fantasies on the Xbox at this point.
Yeah.
The whole remake for Final Fantasy
Mm-hmm.
7, as of right now, is not coming to the new system, or at least not to Xbox One. It might
See,
be
Mm-mm.
a
I kind of
timed
called that a
release.
couple of months ago, though.
Well, everybody that was reporting on it and everybody that was talking about it was just assuming, because of the past history here, that it was going to be a multi-platform thing. I mean, you've got
Right.
people that played Final Fantasy VII when it first came out that are, now playing their games on Xbox, and the dev is sitting there, trying to broaden their horizon and let some of the Xbox players play some of these games, which also, side note, made no sense when they did Kingdom Hearts 3. Even if they just did a timed release for the first 2, it would have made sense, but to only put the third one on Xbox made no sense.
Right.
But
Contracts and
everybody
money,
was just,
man.
yeah,
Contracts and money.
that's pretty much what it boils down to. And the devs were kind of, they weren't arguing, they weren't denying it, they weren't saying anything really about it. But then, according to the one podcast that I listened to, there was somebody having an interview with them, and something got said about it being on Xbox, and Sony shut the interview down and put out a statement saying, at this time, there are no plans for any other systems other than PlayStation.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, I mean,
Um,
and especially with Sony being in supposedly a partnership to help better their services with Microsoft and hopefully do crossplay, why pull this move? It's like they're shooting themselves in the foot.
yeah, I agree.
I mean,
We don't know how these new systems are going to go, though. So, I
no.
mean,
For some reason, Scarlet keeps changing. They're giving specs, but they're changing overall statements about it.
Sony
uh,
basically said, let's play error roulette.
yeah.
yeah, literally. I mean, Sony since last year at E3, Sony has been in the public eye. It seemed like they were trying to scramble for some reason. You know, just straight up starting to give official leaks about the PlayStation 5, and then not showing up for E3, saying that they're going to do their own thing and yada yada yada, blaming uh, financials and all this other crap. But then at the same time, a week or two later, they'll sit there and say, "Oh yeah, but we have record profits because of these, and we have these games and this stuff, and we have this stuff in the works." It's like, okay, well, just show it. Be social.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things about E3, where everybody came together and showed off. And when they backed out, everyone was sitting there going, "Okay, what are you doing?" And then they had some stuff that seemed okay. All right, they're still playing along. And then you've got this, and then you've got the partnership that they're pulling, where everybody thinks it's mainly centered around crossplay, but crossplay hasn't been mentioned. The only thing they've mentioned is they want a better. They want to learn how to model their social interactions on the PlayStation
Mm.
Network. So I'm thinking they're gonna have some version of party chat or streaming, Game Pass. I would assume some stuff like that. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Give Sony people the same experience that you could possibly have on Xbox, just with the exclusives. Doesn't hurt my feelings any. You
Right.
know,
Right.
if you're all gonna get together and play friends, then this will better us, the gamers. Because
True.
moving into the next topic here, I mean, gaming here in the past 5 years has gotten out of control.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you guys watch Black Mirror, but I feel like within the next few years we'll have some of like those crazy video games that they have in that show. Like
I hadn't seen it.
you haven't seen it. I mean,
No.
I won't ruin any of them, but there's a couple of them that show like these video games or like virtual reality where the neuroreceptor goes on the side of your head and it
Okay.
runs off of your brain signals. So
For
I
those
feel
of you
like
that don't
eventually,
know, Cambio has an inside track on some of that tech, so
Yeah.
yeah. So I haven't heard anything about um, specifically neuroreceptors yet, but I mean I know that we're getting internet upgraded across the board, all over the world, and pretty soon they're going to be projecting internet that's kind of like a universal like cloud internet for
Mhm.
everyone to use that everyone will be able to access. I know they're working towards that too, but I don't know that could be 5 years or more away. But my point is that with the way gaming's advanced, if I myself own just about every major console, and if you plug in a Super Nintendo and then you compare it to like a PlayStation 4, you know, that's not a huge gap of time. I mean, it's a good amount of time, but it's not a huge one for the difference in the technology. If you look at it, it's insane how far we've come. So yeah, neurotransmitters
Well,
couldn't be too far away, dude.
when you consider that, we're coming to the close of 2019. All right.
Hmm.
So to make the math easier, 20 years, 20 years ago,
Hmm.
20 simple years ago, you, the I'm pretty sure the top console was uh
N64, I
Dream
think.
N64, Dreamcast, and PlayStation.
Yeah, Yeah, I want to say PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 was
PlayStation
just
2
starting to
went head to head with Xbox.
the regular Xbox, yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
the
that came out
Dreamcast got
2001, I think.
drowned.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, in my opinion, I think Dreamcast was ahead of its time.
it was so amazing, and I have one, and I love it. Like
I have
you
it
can
too.
literally, you can literally play a game on your memory card. Like it has a built-in, like miniature screen in the controller, and we're talking about yeah, like in the year 2000. The year 2000, we had like in-screen controllers. That's crazy. Sega was way ahead of its time. People didn't appreciate it, man.
It was very, very underrated, and I mean, it gave birth to a couple of very solid games. One of the biggest one being Soul Calibur.
Oh man, yep. I got the OG Soul Calibur, man. It's dope. And
I
for its
got it.
time, like it's the graphics are pretty good. Like I every once in a while I'll fire up the Dreamcast and play it, and I'll go, considering this game came out in 2000 and they probably started developing it in like 1999, it's got some damn good graphics, man. Like
Oh yeah,
I'll even admit, better than PlayStation One by far. Like
it,
leaps and
it
bounds.
easily. I mean, it easily gave every other console before the OG Xbox and the PlayStation 2 a run for its money. But for some reason, luck wasn't with Sega at the time.
It's because they couldn't get their hands on exclusive licenses. um, outside of a few franchises, but nothing enough to elevate it to the state
True,
as the other
true.
consoles. They
Okay.
just didn't have the licenses. Like if you look at the whole game library for the Dreamcast, it's a pretty slim picking. The only exclusives that it had outside of Sonic was Power Stone, which is a you know obscure fighting game. A lot of people don't even know about it, but it was a great game. I don't know if you've ever played it, but it
Nope.
was the first like legitimately 3D fighter. Like you can run around the entire room. Like it's crazy. Like you can be fighting each other from across the room or be right in each other's face, and that was just not common back then. But
No.
again, because those were the only two exclusive titles that I can think of, there wasn't, it didn't sell. And the one about the fish with the man's face, what was it called? Leonard
Oh, that
Nimoy.
thing.
Leonard Nimoy was the freaking the voice in it.
Yeah.
What was it
Oh,
called? Seaman.
yeah. That's it.
Seaman. Yep.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, I
that
forgot
game
about
was
that.
so odd, and
Yeah.
you controlled it by voice. Again,
hmm
this is a console in 2000 that was voice controlled. That's crazy.
And then I mean, just a couple years before that, 96, 97, you had the 64, and that was
True.
going up. That was going up against
PS1.
PS1 and Sega. The OG Sega should have been because Saturn.
Saturn at that point, or CD, Saturn, CD, yeah,
Uh,
same thing.
yeah, but that fell flat on its face.
Yeah, those were trash, straight up. The Genesis was dope,
I had a
and
Saturn.
It was
it
so
it
bad.
just wasn't. It was terrible, man. There are no good games on Saturn. Like, there's none. It just sucks. Like, you could literally, like, well, never mind. James Rolfe has already done it. I was gonna say you can make an entire show about all those shitty games that came out for those consoles, but Angry Video Game Nerd beat
Yeah,
us to it.
but I mean, eh, and 64 hit it off big with the Tony Hawk games, of course the Mario stuff, and then
Mario, definitely.
the biggest ones after that were Donkey Kong, GoldenEye, and Perfect Dark. Those were
They
like the big titles.
Got him.
Saturn did
And
have the
oh wait,
cruising
Conker's
series.
Bad Fur Day. Say what, Robbie?
Saturn did have the cruising series, like cruising USA, cruising Exotica, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
You know
Because I
what
had those
though?
games for it.
You know what? Those games are cool, but I would rather play those in an arcade than on a home console. Those are arcade games,
yeah,
I will hop if I saw a
Very true.
Cruising USA cabinet anywhere. I don't care where I'm at or what I'm doing. Like I would stop and I would pump $1.50 in that damn thing to play it. Nostalgia. It was a great game, but again, not enough to save a whole shitty console. Unfortunately, even though those games are cool, but um, what were we talking about right before that? I got off track.
we all got off track, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
My
oh,
bad.
you were comparing
Oh, you're cool.
uh,
Yeah, you're
the
cool.
graphics in the short amount of time
Yeah, oh
to
yeah.
to to show off basically
Oh, I remember.
the new stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember what I was getting ready to say. Conker's Bad Fur Day for the 64. Like one of the first or only R-rated games on the 64, I believe. Um, which is crazy when you think about that there was an R-rated game on the Nintendo 64, like an American one too. So that's definitely something.
Yeah, like
If you don't have in your collection, if you're a collector and you don't have Conker's Bad Fur Day, you got to have it, man. It is a necessity.
N64 was fairly tame compared to some of the stuff we have now.
Well, I mean, there were some R-rated games on PlayStation, or mature, I should say. Sorry, mature rated games. Like you had, Parasite Eve and Resident Evil and stuff like that on the PlayStation One. And I think South Park even like cussed in their games and stuff. So I mean, you had content out there on other platforms, but not on. You're right. On the 64, it was like Mario and Donkey Kong. They don't curse. They don't kill anybody. They hit each other in the head with blocks and bananas. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
And like all the Crash Bandicoot jokes that were in the game and everything. I mean,
Yeah, they were real subliminal with it. Yeah,
Here's one thing that
those are definitely
I
adult
wanted to
jokes.
see if you noticed, because I'm pretty sure if anybody has, you did. Uh, on the Dreamcast, they had one of the Resident Evils on there,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and it was on both consoles. It was on PlayStation and Dreamcast. It looked 10 times better on the Dreamcast than it did on the PS.
True, very true. Same thing with Marvel vs. Capcom
Yeah,
2. Yeah, the port that because that's originally again an arcade cabinet, and the arcade cabinet has a setup and a certain roster of characters that they never fully did correctly on the consoles. But out of all of the ports that they did, the one for the Dreamcast I actually regarded as the best, hands down. And that's PlayStation 2, matter of fact, that's on, and still the Dreamcast was doing better than the PlayStation 2 on that game. I should tell you something.
I mean, it's just money wise now. You back then you had all these developers and these console makers. Doing their own R&D. They were using their own money to try and put out these fantastic consoles,
Hmm.
and it started getting expensive because technology was growing faster than anything else. I mean,
True.
we've seen this huge jump in technology in just 20 years. I mean, I would say before the 360 generation and the PS3 generation, a console's lifespan was unlimited
Cambio's
because
gonna have
Yeah.
something to say about this, but I think Dreamcast should have beaten out GameCube.
Yeah,
Told you.
man, I'm kind of on the fence about that, man, because they're both
Ga-
amazing consoles.
I think GameCube was necessary, but it was not one of their best things.
Yeah, probably not best, but better than Wii U. And
Yeah,
the fact the fact that it had a built-in Game Boy player attachment was really cool.
yeah,
And there are great games for it too, like the Mario Kart for that's really good. The Mario Party games on GameCube are great, and the fact that they ported the Sega version of Sonic Adventure over to the GameCube, and they actually fixed the glitches in it, because right after the GameCube uh, died, they bought out the rights for Sonic. That's
right.
when Sega transitioned into a graphic design company, a game designer, as instead of putting out consoles, and Nintendo basically bought them out.
Did you know
And
that they make
they
a
improved that
case?
game. You know,
Yeah,
Did you
they
know?
make
Did you know that they make a case for Android devices where you can play Game Boy games on?
yes, yes, yes.
yes.
I've seen that, and I almost ordered it, but
It's a little expensive,
I
isn't it?
it's yes, it's a little bit expensive, and it's one of those things that's cool, and it would probably be cool for like maybe the first month or so you had it, but as you know, anything that's cool on your phone, you get tired of it real quick. So I
Right.
mean,
True.
how many times would you poop and play your video game before you got in trouble? And it's like, look, man, I was playing Game Boy, and they're like, dude, it's not 1999. You cannot be late for work because you were playing Game Boy. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You don't
Get
work
off
at
the toilet.
Blockbuster. Yeah.
Yeah, no
That's some
shit.
shit that you would say at Blockbuster. The hell took you so long? I was playing Game Boy in the back room, bro.
Well, I mean, you had this huge jump in technology, and everyone's struggling to keep up. And you see, Sega fall from at least from the
Yeah.
console scene. You see them
Which
fall,
hurt.
and huh?
Which hurt. I'm not
Oh
gonna lie. I
yeah,
was a Sega
yeah.
fan.
I mean, I owned a Sega before. I owned a Sega over a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, me too.
Um, I mean, I liked the Super Nintendo, but I was given a choice, and I said, I'll take the Sega. So I had that, and then I went back to Nintendo with the 64.
Oh, come on. We all chose Sega because Genesis had the freaking Sega Channel.
I never had got to get the Sega Channel,
Sega
but
Oh, I
Channel.
that
love
was an
Sega Channel.
awesome. Yeah, there was a Sega Channel. Yep, yep.
Okay, explain this to me.
Basically, so basically, you know how you like um order back then how you would order a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You know, you had to like call them and get the code set and everything. You could plug in your Sega like you would, like cable, like they made
There was
like,
a special little adapter
uh-huh,
that you plugged
and
in.
and I think it was like a monthly fee, just like anything else.
Mm.
And you got like a list of games that you could just play. Like it was
That was
one
for
of the first, yeah, it was like the first like online streaming thing, basically. Again,
Holy
Sega
crap!
did that. Yeah, yeah.
also
I
the
never
first
even knew
time I
that
played
existed.
Earthworm Jim.
Right. Yeah. That's how I got introduced to Sonic, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But that was way early on, and it didn't last for very long. So
I mean, Sega.
uh,
Apparently, I mean, we know Sega was ahead of its time. I mean,
yeah, it did what Nintendo don't. That was their slogan,
yeah,
and it
um,
and people believed it. And the blast processing. Can't forget the blast processing.
yeah.
What the? Yeah, I love how back then, like in the 80s and 90s, you could just make up terms, and kids would be like, "Well, Sega has blast processing." What does that mean?
What are you talking about? God damn it!
Nintendo fans would just be like, well, you don't have anything portable, and then boom, the Game Gear.
Oh, I had a Game Gear.
I have a special edition blue one
Ooh,
that I had rebuilt. I had a new screen put in and everything. They actually still make parts for it, believe it or not.
I've heard
I
that.
just since we're talking about Nintendo and Sega, the Nintendo Arm controller.
Oh my god.
Oh, the yeah, the glove. Yeah, no,
Okay,
that
do
thing's
you
trash.
do you guys remember the headset?
Yep.
It plugged into both ports. It had
Mhm.
the eyepiece and the mouthpiece
Yep.
for the original
Original Nintendo,
NES.
and you'd have to say fire, and
Yep,
it would shoot. Yeah.
and had a
Yep.
little red crosshair. You could aim
Mhm.
it.
Yep.
I
Yeah, I
remember
remember
playing
that
Duck
thing.
Hunt with that shit.
But you could say anything. You didn't have to say fire. You could literally say peanut butter jelly tits, and it would still shoot.
Yeah.
So, so that, I mean, I guess it wasn't really voice controlled. It was just noise
Oh, and Sega even
triggered.
came out with the first motion control. You remember the Octagon?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that. They had didn't they have something similar to that for the Nintendo as well, though? I feel like they did. It was like a thing
They
that
had a
you put
pad.
on.
They had a pad.
Yeah, I remember the pad too, but wasn't
Or was
there?
it something else?
I feel like they, yeah. Oh, man, I would have to look it up, but I watched Nintendo and Sega, like it was the Angry Video Game Nerd, and he did Nintendo and Sega and like all those old school, like, first time they were trying out like motion sensors and voice command stuff. And I want to say Nintendo had something too, but like all of it sucked. Like none of it worked properly.
I actually played with the Octagon once or twice. It was
And you're like, fuck this
laggy.
shit.
No, it was laggy as fuck, but it was so cool. I mean, just the novelty of it at that time was
Yeah, at the
insane.
time, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even care if I was losing the match. I was just like, "Oh, this is cool! What the hell?"
True.
And it never picked up steam, and then you didn't see anything like that until, uh, was which one was first next? The Wii or The
We
Connect,
The Wii or the what?
Connect, which came out first.
we
Was it?
yeah, we
Was it?
came out around about 6 months after the 360, before they ever introduced the Connect.
Okay.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I know Sony came out about a year later with the uh, the blue and red ball thing,
Yeah, I
which
know
is
what you're talking
basically
about.
their version of the
The Move.
Joy-Cons.
The
Hmm.
Move. Yep.
Hadn't
Has
heard
anyone
about that
tried
one
the
in
new
a while.
PS4? The PS4 virtual reality. I heard it was pretty good.
I'm hearing good things about VR, but it's and again it goes, and especially with the new consoles coming out, it goes to pricing. I mean,
Ah,
yeah, you can have these things, and then when you think about what you can do with them, they're fairly well priced, but when you get it and you can only access like 5 games, are those 5 games strong enough to justify your purchase? I mean, the biggest one right now is the Star Trek one, where you're on the bridge and you actually have to play with the other people, and
mm-hmm.
you're given your different roles, and you actually have a VR version of the bridge. And if you're the pilot, you've got to move your hand to control the ship. And if you're the captain, you've got a couple little controls that you can mess with, and you've got to give your orders out. That's the one that I would play, but I'm not going to pay $700 just to play that one thing.
Right. You're right.
Now Nintendo's doing VR in a smart, economic way. My son just got the VR build it yourself kit for his birthday for the Switch, and that thing is pretty fucking cool.
hmm. Yeah. I have seen it. I haven't played it for myself, but it does look pretty cool.
Well, they give you like it's like 30 little mini games, and you put the visor on. You can use the the little Joy Cons as you want, but just the little mini games are pretty fun to do. And it's I think it was like $50 for the kit, and it involves sitting down with your kid, building the little headset, doing all this, and then you get to play the little mini games. So it's not bad. It's not anywhere near where the actual VR consoles are at, but it's still fun to play. Like Connect was fun to mess with for a while, but then when they started to push it too much, it became annoying.
Yeah, agreed.
And I
Like
mean,
when
Microsoft's still suffering from that. When you've got Cortana, if you're sitting there, you could be sitting there in a group chat just talking shit, and all of a sudden, in the middle of your match, Cortana pops up. What did you say? How can I do this? No, I didn't. And you got to exit out of that.
right.
I'm glad they're not pushing the Connect like they were. So hopefully the price will
I
come
always
down.
turn Cortana off.
Yeah, well, when the Xbox One first came out, you had to have a Kinect, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, that's stupid.
Well,
I don't want that.
the head that the head of the company that led the production of the one had to have just gone insane at some point, because he was approving these things, and when they would get leaked and he would ask about it, he's like, well, we're still making stuff for the 360. You don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. And we're talking like constant connectivity, we're talking the Connect stuff and a bunch of other things that were being told you had to have, and people were like, well, we don't want to have some of that, if any of it.
Right, right.
And then he got fired, or quote unquote stepped down, uh, I think maybe 6 months before launch. And the guy that took it over was able to turn around a good bit of it. And while he's been heading it, he's been trying to fix some of those issues while at the same time trying to push Microsoft forward, with the new acquisitions that they got last year and the stuff that they're trying to work for now. He's making some good and smart moves. I mean, he's actually sitting there at the table with Nintendo and with Sony, I think he truly believes, yes, we do this. It's not just about what we can do and the money. We want to focus on the gamers.
Right.
And it's nice to see somebody doing that. But now, and this goes into the next point, you've got the game developers